My brother wanted me to become the guardian of his child, so I demanded that his wife take a paternity test before agreeing. Now their marriage is falling apart. My name's Adam. I'm 28, a middle school teacher, and until a few weeks ago, I thought I understood the limits of what family meant. I thought that no matter how tired I was or how complicated things got, I'd always be able to show up for my brother. His name is Jason. He's 30, 2 years older than me, and we've always been close. Ever since we lost both of our parents within 18 months of each other when I was just 21. It wasn't easy. We grieved differently. He got serious about work. I buried myself in study and later in the kids I taught. But through everything, we stayed connected. So when he showed up on my doorstep 2 weeks ago with his infant son Caleb strapped to his chest in a baby carrier and an overnight bag in hand, I knew something was wrong. Jason doesn't do the unannounced drop-by. He's the let me schedule it between meetings type. That night, though, he looked exhausted, like he'd been carrying something heavier than just a 6-month-old. I need a favor, he said, standing awkwardly in my living room while I made coffee we both barely touched. I need you to be Caleb's guardian. I thought he meant in some abstract, long-term, if anything ever happens to us way. I said something like, sure, happy to be listed as next of kin, but his face didn't change. No smile. No relief. Just a slow shake of the head. No, Adam. I mean now. For real. He explained everything quickly, like if he said it fast enough, it wouldn't sound as serious as it was. His wife, Brianna, 29, had recently been diagnosed with stage 2 liver cancer. Aggressive but treatable. She had just started chemotherapy, and her body wasn't handling it well. She was spending more days in the hospital than out. Meanwhile, Jason had received a job offer out of state, something that promised a substantial raise, better insurance, and enough income to cover Brianna's treatment and expenses without completely draining their savings. But the job required relocating 4 hours away and being in the office Monday through Friday. Her parents, who lived just across town, were already helping as much as they could, but they were elderly. Her dad had a bad hip, and her mom's hands trembled too much to even safely hold Caleb. They couldn't take care of a baby full-time, not while managing Brianna's needs as well. That left Jason with one option, me. I was the only living family he had. No cousins, no aunts, no uncles. Just me. And I knew the request wasn't made lightly. Still, it hit me like a truck. Not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't sure I could handle it. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with barely enough space for my own mess, let alone a crib, diapers, and nightly feedings. My life is built around early mornings, late lesson planning, and very little sleep as it is. But there was more. Something deeper stopped me from agreeing right away, something I hadn't spoken about in years. See, I'd heard things about Brianna. Not from Jason, not directly. But gossip has legs in small towns, and I remember a story from a few years back that stuck with me. It came up during lunch at school. One of my coworkers was venting about her cousin being dragged through court over a paternity fraud case. Her cousin had raised a child for nearly 2 years before discovering, through a reluctant paternity test, that the baby wasn't his. The kicker? His wife had conspired with her best friend to keep the lie going. And that best friend, according to my coworker's offhand comment, was named Brianna. Same first name, same age, same background. It didn't take much to realize it might be the same woman now married to my brother. At the time, I didn't press. It wasn't my business. But when Jason later introduced me to Brianna, my stomach turned. She smiled wide and polite, hugged me like we were already family, and I couldn't shake the thought. Is this the same woman who helped someone scam an innocent man into raising another guy's child? Later, I brought it up to Jason. Carefully, I said there were rumors floating around about her past, serious ones. But he waved it off like swatting a fly. She already told me, he said. It was nothing. She just got caught in the middle of someone else's mess. I didn't say anything more. People change, right? Maybe it really wasn't her. Maybe it was gossip. Maybe the story was twisted by the time it got to me. I let it go. But now, with Jason asking me to take legal guardianship of his child, those doubts came screaming back. I told him I needed to think about it. He nodded. Of course, he said. Take all the time you need. That night, I couldn't sleep. The baby had fallen asleep in his car seat on the couch, and Jason had eventually crashed in my guest bed. I lay awake replaying everything I'd heard over the years, every moment I'd spent with Brianna, every instinct that had ever screamed that something didn't feel right. And in the morning, over cold coffee and silence, I said it. I'll do it, Jason. But on one condition. You need to get a paternity test. He blinked like I'd slapped him. For a long time, he just stared at me. Then his face hardened. You think Caleb's not mine? I'm not saying that, I replied. I'm saying I won't take legal custody of a child unless we're sure. I'm not trying to accuse anyone. I need to protect myself. He stood up without another word, picked up Caleb, grabbed his bag, and left. No goodbye? That was 2 weeks ago. The days after Jason left felt strange, like the silence itself had weight. He didn't text, didn't call, not even a passive-aggressive, thanks for the judgment message. Just radio silence. I kept checking my phone, even during class. I told myself it was out of concern, but honestly, I was bracing for backlash. My brother isn't hot-headed, but he's proud. He hates being second-guessed, especially about the people he loves. And demanding a paternity test? That's as personal as it gets. By day 3, I started wondering if I'd overstepped. Had I really just inserted myself into his marriage like that? Even if I had good reasons, was it worth potentially destroying our relationship? I didn't tell anyone what happened, not even my closest friends. How do you explain to people that your brother asked you to help raise his child, and instead of saying yes, you demanded DNA proof? I was on my lunch break at school when Jason finally called. I stared at his name on the screen for a few seconds before answering. Hey. His voice was short, flat, the kind of tone someone uses when they've already decided they're done with the conversation. You don't need to worry about anything anymore, he said. What does that mean? I'm staying. Forget the job. Forget the guardian thing. It's handled. Jason. I said it's handled, and I'd appreciate it if you stayed out of it from now on. Click. He hung up. It felt like getting slapped. I just sat there, phone still in my hand, wondering what the hell had just happened. Jason had never spoken to me like that in his life. Not even when we were teens and fighting over stupid stuff like chores or girls. Never this cold. I didn't know what to do. I debated texting him, showing up at his place, calling Brianna, but I didn't want to cause more damage. I kept thinking, what changed his mind? Because something definitely had. That night, I poured myself a drink and stared at the wall. I couldn't shake the idea that the paternity test had come back, and maybe the results weren't what he expected. Still, I couldn't be sure. It was all just speculation. Until the next evening. That's when I got a call I didn't expect. It was Brianna. I picked up, already tense. But I didn't even have time to say hello before she launched into it. You ruined everything, you selfish bastard. I froze. What are you talking about? Jason was finally happy. We had a family, a future, and you just had to stick your nose where it didn't belong. Do you know what you've done? I didn't respond. She was hysterical. I just listened as she went off, accusing me of manipulation, of planting doubt, of trying to tear them apart. Then she said something that stuck with me. You didn't care about Caleb. You just wanted to prove you were right. And with that, she hung up too. I sat there, stunned. She hadn't denied anything. Hadn't said, how dare you accuse me? Or Jason is his father. She hadn't even tried to fake indignation. It was guilt, masked as rage, and it confirmed what I'd feared. That night, Jason came over. Without warning. He knocked once and let himself in with the spare key he still had from college. He looked tired. Not just physically. I mean hollow. Like someone had taken a straw to his chest and sucked out everything that made him himself. He sat down at my kitchen table, didn't say anything at first, just looked at the table, running a finger in circles against the grain. Then he spoke. I did the test. My chest tightened. He kept his eyes on the wood. Twice, actually. I didn't want to believe it. Thought maybe the first one was wrong. Maybe the lab screwed up. But the second came back the same. He looked up at me, and his eyes were red-rimmed. Not from crying, just from exhaustion. Like he hadn't slept in days. Caleb isn't mine. I didn't know what to say. I thought I was prepared for that answer. But hearing it aloud hit harder than I expected. Caleb, this tiny, bubbly baby I'd held on the couch just weeks ago, wasn't Jason's son. He continued. She told me it only happened once. That it was a mistake. Said she was drunk. That it was just a stupid night with a friend from before. Some emotional moment while I was away for work. That she regretted it the second it happened. I didn't interrupt. Jason laughed, but it was bitter. Hollow. I defended her for years, Adam. You know that, right? Every time someone brought up her past, every time someone whispered something sideways, I shut it down. I believed her. I bet my whole damn life on her. He ran a hand over his face. And it turns out, she wasn't just part of that old paternity scam. She orchestrated it. She set it up. Got her cousin at the hospital to help cover it up. Took money from her friend to keep it going. He looked up at me again. I married a con artist. The silence in the room was suffocating. I feel like a joke, he said. A walking punchline. I got up and poured us both a drink. Not because it would fix anything, but because it was something to do. We sat there for hours, barely speaking. Just two brothers sitting in the wreckage of someone else's lies. Jason stayed on my couch that night. He didn't say much after his confession, and I didn't push. What could I say? I told you so. That wouldn't even scratch the surface. He wasn't just heartbroken. He was humiliated, violated, betrayed by someone he had built an entire life around. The next morning, he made coffee like it was any other day, like his world hadn't just collapsed. He stared out the window while it brewed and finally said, "There's more." I waited. The guy she slept with, Caleb's biological father, he's still in the picture. Has been the whole time. I blinked. Wait, what? His name's Eric. She introduced him early on when we were dating. Said he was an old friend. That they used to hang out in high school. That he was harmless. You even met him once. Remember that 4th of July barbecue? I did. He was tall, quiet, good-looking. I'd assumed he was one of Jason's work friends. Turns out they'd been close for years. Real close. She said it was just a one-time slip. A moment of weakness while I was on a business trip. She claimed they were drunk. That it didn't mean anything. Jason's hands curled around his mug. But now I can't tell what's real and what's just another carefully polished lie. Because get this, she told him the truth. Recently. Like, after the paternity test came back. My stomach dropped. She admitted that Caleb is his son. And now he wants custody too. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She let him believe he was just her old friend, all this time. All while he was the real father? And now she's bringing him into this mess. Jason nodded. She said she didn't mean to. That it slipped out during an argument. But I don't buy it. Not anymore. I think she wanted him to know. I think it was strategic. It made sense in a twisted way. Brianna was losing control. Her secret had unraveled. Her marriage was ending. Maybe she thought Eric could be her safety net, the way Jason once was. Does he want to be involved? I asked. Jason gave a bitter smile. Oh, he's already seen a lawyer. Says he has a right to see his son. And if I don't cooperate, he'll file a petition. But Caleb's your son. Maybe not biologically, but you've raised him since birth. Exactly, Jason said. I'm the one who stayed up all night when he wouldn't sleep. I'm the one who changed the diapers, took him to his checkups, paid for everything. I am his father. But the law. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I could see the fear in his eyes. Not fear of losing Brianna. He was long past that. But fear of losing Caleb. Of being treated like a babysitter who had overstayed his welcome. Do you think he'll actually go through with it? I asked. Jason nodded. Brianna says she cut ties with him, but I don't believe her. Not anymore. And if he's lawyered up, he's not backing down. The only thing I can do now is protect Caleb the best I can. I could see the toll it was taking on him. He hadn't shaved. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked 10 years older than he had a week ago. Are you filing for custody? I asked. Full custody, he replied. And a divorce. Both are already in motion. The words landed heavy in the room. This was really happening. Later that day, Jason had a meeting with his attorney, and I offered to watch Caleb. It was the first time I'd seen the baby since all of this started. He looked just as bright-eyed and curious as ever, giggling at the lights on my ceiling fan, trying to grab my face with his tiny hands, completely oblivious to the chaos surrounding him. It made me angry, in a way, that this innocent little boy was being pulled between adults playing tug-of-war with secrets, guilt, and regret. When Jason came back, he was quiet, sat down and stared at the floor for a long time before saying, Brianna wants joint custody. I blinked. You're kidding. She says she's sorry. That she didn't mean to involve Eric. That she regrets everything. But now she's playing the cancer card. What? She said. I may not have long to live. You're going to take my son away from me in my last few months on Earth. I winced. That's low, but effective. I told her that this isn't about revenge, Jason continued. It's not about punishing her. It's about Caleb. He deserves peace. Stability. Not to be pulled between a mother who lied and a biological father who just discovered he exists. I admired his composure. I don't think I could have handled it with that much grace. What did she say? She started crying. Said she's not fighting the divorce. But she begged me not to take Caleb away completely. Said she wants to be part of his life, even if it's just a few hours a week. And I told her she could have supervised visits. That's it. Once a week. At a neutral place. No overnight stays. No surprises. He sighed, as if just saying it out loud had drained him. She didn't take it well. Said I was punishing her. That I was cruel. I shook my head. She lied about everything for years. She played you. And now she wants to play the martyr. He nodded slowly. I know. But part of me still feels like the villain. You're not, I said, without hesitation. You're the only one doing the right thing here. He gave me a tired smile. Thanks, man. But I could tell he didn't fully believe it. Not yet. As he got up to leave, carrying Caleb in one arm and a diaper bag in the other, I watched him and realized something. Jason wasn't just fighting for custody. He was fighting to reclaim his dignity. To show that love doesn't end with DNA. And for the first time since all this began, I believed he was going to win. 3 days passed. Jason didn't say much during that time. We texted a little, mostly logistics, updates about Caleb, a few lawyer-related questions, but emotionally, he shut down again. I didn't push. I figured he was trying to hold himself together in front of Caleb. But deep down, I knew something else was coming. Some final turn of the screw. It arrived on a Thursday afternoon. I was grading essays at home when there was a knock on my door. I opened it and nearly recoiled. It was Brianna. She looked like a shadow of the woman I remembered. Gaunt, pale, hair pulled back into a messy bun. Her skin had that almost translucent tone you sometimes see in chemo patients, like she was fading from the inside out. Her body was trembling, whether from nerves or exhaustion or something deeper, I couldn't tell. "Is Jason here?" she asked. I was caught off guard. "No, he's out with Caleb." "What? I need to talk to him. Please." She looked past me into the hallway, like she was expecting him to appear behind me. When he didn't, she swayed slightly on her feet. She choked on her own breath. "I'm not doing well." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face. Another part, a much smaller, quieter part, remembered that she was still Caleb's mother. And dying or not, she was unraveling in real time. I sighed and stepped aside. "You can wait inside. But I don't know when he'll be back." She nodded, slowly stepped in. She looked around like the walls might collapse. Sat gingerly on the edge of the couch, both hands in her lap, like a schoolgirl waiting to be scolded. 15 minutes later, Jason arrived, with Caleb in his carrier, a grocery bag over his shoulder, and confusion on his face the moment he saw her. "What's she doing here?" he asked me, not unkindly, just blunt. "She came looking for you. Said it was urgent." Jason gave me a look. I offered to take Caleb to the back room so they could talk. "I'll stay," I said, "unless you want privacy." He hesitated, then shook his head. "No, if she's going to talk, you might as well hear it too." He placed the baby in the crib in the corner and sat down across from her, his arms crossed, gaze steady. I'd seen him angry before, but this was different. This was disappointment layered with exhaustion and numbness. "Talk." Brianna swallowed hard. Her voice cracked before she even got the first word out. "I'm not here to fight. I know it's over. I know I messed everything up." Jason said nothing. She continued, her hands shaking slightly. "I told Eric the truth because I was scared. You were pulling away. I panicked. I didn't think he'd go this far." Jason's face remained unreadable. "You didn't think the man who fathered your child would be interested in that child once he knew? I didn't mean to make this worse. You've been making it worse for years." That landed. Her face twisted as if slapped. I know what I did. I should have told you a long time ago. I was just afraid. Afraid you'd leave. That you'd hate me. That I'd lose everything." "You should have been afraid," Jason said quietly. "Because everything you were afraid of, it's happening now." She nodded quickly, as if agreeing might save her. "I'm not going to contest the divorce," she said. "I've already told my lawyer. I'm not even going to fight the custody terms. I just want to see Caleb. That's all." Jason didn't answer. He just watched her. "I've stopped seeing Eric. I told him to stay away. That I don't want him involved anymore. I told him the truth, yes, but I didn't think he'd take it to court. And I swear to you, I didn't ask him to." Jason narrowed his eyes. "You didn't ask, but you handed him the loaded gun." Brianna flinched. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "No," he said. "You made a series of choices. Over years. Each one worse than the last." She started crying. Not the performative kind. Real, gut-deep sobs. But Jason didn't move. He let her cry. I did too. After a minute, she forced the words out through her tears. "I have stage 3 cancer now. I don't know how much time I have left. I just want to see my baby. That's all I have left." Jason sat forward, his elbows on his knees. His voice was calm, controlled, but icy. "You had everything. A husband who loved you. A child who adored you. A life built on second chances. And you lit it on fire." "I know." "No, you don't," he snapped, louder than I'd ever heard him. "You don't know what it's like to sit in a clinic, reading paperwork that tells you your whole life has been a lie. You don't know what it's like to look at your child and suddenly feel like a stranger." Brianna was silent now, just crying. Quietly, hopelessly. Jason stood. "I'll give you visitation. 1 hour a week. Supervised. No contact with Eric. No surprises. You'll see him at a monitored facility, and if I even think you're pulling anything, it ends." She looked up, eyes red and puffy. "Thank you." He nodded once. "I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for Caleb. Because I want him to grow up with some version of the truth. Even if that truth is messy." She wiped her eyes. "I love him, Jason. I love you. I always have." He didn't answer, just turned and walked into the nursery to check on Caleb. I sat there, frozen in place, unsure what had just happened. It felt like the final chapter of something bitter and broken. But maybe, just maybe, it was also the beginning of something else, something honest. After a few minutes, Brianna stood. She thanked me for letting her in, her voice raspy and weak. I didn't say anything. I just opened the door. As she walked out into the cold afternoon light, I realized she looked smaller than I remembered. And for the first time in years, Jason looked stronger. A week passed after Brianna's visit. Jason didn't say much. He stuck to the routine: work, Baby, legal filings. No emotion, just forward motion. The court had already begun the process of formalizing the divorce, and his attorney was confident that with the circumstances, infidelity, fraud, concealed paternity, Jason would have the stronger custody case, even without a biological tie. Still, there was no joy in any of it, just the quiet weight of responsibility. The first supervised visitation was scheduled for Sunday afternoon. A neutral facility set up for high-conflict custody cases, pastel-painted rooms with toys, monitored by social workers who'd seen it all. Jason didn't want to be there, but he didn't want Caleb to feel abandoned either. He asked me to come. I just need a second pair of eyes, he said. Someone who can keep things grounded if it goes sideways. I agreed. I couldn't say no. Not now. We arrived 10 minutes early. Caleb was fussy. He'd missed his nap, and Jason rocked him gently in his arms while pacing the tiled floor. She's late, he muttered. Traffic, I offered, though I didn't really believe it. Then the door opened, and there she was. Brianna looked worse than before. Her skin had a yellow tint. Her hair was thinner. She walked with a stiffness that said even her bones were tired. But her eyes lit up the second she saw Caleb. Jason handed him over without a word. She cradled him like a mother desperate to memorize every line of her child's face. For a few minutes, no one said anything. The social worker sat nearby, taking notes silently. Brianna whispered things into Caleb's ear, kissed his forehead, and rocked him slowly in a chair. She was crying, but quietly, like someone who didn't have the strength for another breakdown. Jason stood beside me, arms folded, jaw tight. He didn't speak once. At the end of the hour, the social worker gave the signal. Brianna looked at the clock and gave Caleb one last long hug before handing him back. Her hands lingered on his tiny fingers as if she could freeze time by holding on longer. She looked at Jason. Thank you, she whispered, for letting me have this. He didn't respond, just nodded slightly. Then we left. Outside, Jason put Caleb in the car seat and stood by the driver's door without moving. I waited. She's dying, he finally said. Not a question, not a theory, just a fact, delivered quietly. I didn't answer. What could I say? I still hate her, he continued. But I don't want her to die thinking Caleb will never know who she was. Then tell him, I said. When he's older, tell him the truth, not to hurt her, but to protect him from repeating the same cycle. Jason nodded. I will. That night, he asked me to stay for dinner. Caleb fell asleep early, and we sat in his living room in silence, two brothers too emotionally worn down to pretend anymore. He turned to me with something new in his voice, something hesitant. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think I should have known? About everything. I knew what he meant. About the lies, the affair, the scam. The signs he missed. The warnings he ignored. I took a deep breath. No, I said. Because people who love don't look for traps. They trust. That's what makes betrayal so cruel. It's not that you missed the signs. It's that someone weaponized your love against you. He looked down at his hands. I really believed she loved me. She might have, in her own way. But love isn't just about what someone says. It's what they protect. And she didn't protect you. She protected herself. He was quiet after that. A few days later, I got a text from him. She asked to see you. I stared at the message. I hadn't spoken to Brianna since the confrontation in my living room. Part of me wanted to ignore the request. I didn't know her anything. I wasn't the one she lied to. But another part of me, the one that still remembered how small she looked walking out that door, couldn't say no. We met at a cafe near the hospital. She was sitting outside, bundled in a scarf despite the warm air. She didn't look like a woman with months left. She looked like a candle half-burned, flickering. I didn't call you here to fight, she said immediately. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For protecting Jason when I didn't. And for making sure Caleb will be okay. I nodded slowly. I loved Jason, she said, her voice brittle. I really did. But I think I was always more afraid of being alone than I was committed to being honest. That's not love, I said quietly. She looked down. I know. Then she handed me an envelope. Give this to him. After I'm gone. Not before. I didn't ask what was in it. I just took it. That was the last time I saw her. 3 weeks later, Jason texted again. She's gone. It felt strange. Not unexpected. Not shocking. Just hollow. He didn't say anything about the envelope. I didn't either. Not yet. A few months later, Jason won full custody. Eric backed off quietly, likely under pressure from his own family or guilt, or both. The court granted Brianna posthumous supervised visitation records, but it no longer mattered. Jason is still raising Caleb alone. He works hard, sleeps less, but he's present, focused. He's doing everything I thought he couldn't, and doing it with grace. As for me, I keep the envelope locked in a drawer. Jason hasn't asked for it yet. Maybe one day, when he's ready. Maybe one day Caleb will read it himself. And maybe that letter, whatever it contains, will help him understand the storm that shaped his life before he even knew what words were. Until then, all I can do is be here. For both of them. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day. And trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.